Texas. And I was a Bible college student that just a little bit I worked a full-time job, a part-time job. I did all that during the night so I could go to Bible college during the day. So I'm the one that came through at about a 75. I was not the exemplary student. So did that with two young boys who are now 28 and 26. So that's a little bit of my background. So I talk loud, I speak out, and just want to thank everyone for coming. I believe in being passionate about what you believe in. I'm passionate about numerous things. And we're just going to go with some questions for the judge, see if we can have some good dialogue this evening, and find truth, learn things, and just simply be friendly and nice. Everyone likes friendly and nice. So, Judge, Newt Cunningham, this is a beautiful crowd of people that care.
I want to thank you all for attending. And there's no bad question. They're just bad answers. I have been committed. Come ahead. Good to have you here.
Thank you for coming.
I want to thank Ron and his wife for having me. They put this together, and I appreciate them doing it. I want transparency. We right now have an incredible opportunity before us. How long is it going to be here, this opportunity? I can't tell you. But with the sooner we start moving forward and realizing where we are, the better. We need to plan. Now, what do we want? What do we have in common? What can we agree on? What do we want Fannin County to look like? What do we want our community to look like? I can share my vision with you, my thoughts with you. I believe that we shouldn't have politicians. I believe we should have public servants. And what is the difference between a public servant and a politician? Public servants do what's best for their public. Politicians do what's best to keep themselves in office. I'm going to do what I think's right. I'm not going to do what I think is going to provide me a career in politics. I've sort of reached the end of my political career, and I'm here to pay back, not to take. I think that's very important. Let's talk about where we find ourselves. We're looking at change. We can't stop change. Change is the only constant in the world beside God. Everything is like a tide on the beach. It comes in, it goes out. Everything's constantly moving. We can never get it completely right, but we can get it 80% right. We can get it 90% right. Are we going to have times when things slide and the tide goes out? Yes. Do we need to adjust to the tide? It's coming in and coming out? Yes. That's living with change. And if you're going to live with change, there's a couple of things I think you need. Number one, you need the 4-letter word. Plan. You need to plan. And to plan, you need to have some commonality in what you want moving forward. What is the consensus? What does the public want? When I deal with a client, and I was a lawyer forever and a day, practiced law, never got it right, but tried to get it right, I would try to figure out what the client wanted as long as it was in the law and help the client attain that end. As county judge, I sort of wear two hats. I'm the client representing the public interest, and I'm also got my attorney nature going on that's trying to find the way to accomplish what's in the best interest of my client. That's the important thing. What do we want? I want input from you about what we want. I get people telling me, we don't want development. I had a gentleman talk the other night about, let's not do anything about the roads. If we have bad roads, that'll keep people out. That's it. Growth is coming. We're not going to be keeping people out by not maintaining our roads. Now, do we have an obligation to maintain our roads? I think most people want good infrastructure. They want good roads. Do they necessarily want the growth that comes with it? Not necessarily, but the growth is coming anyway. Planning allows us to determine what sort of development do we want. Do we want to be a colony that provides water to the metroplex? Do we want to be a colony covered with solar farms and wind farms that provide electricity to the rest of the world? Those for me are fairly simple questions. Good development for me, what does that mean? I like the idea of rural. I like the idea of living in a park-like situation. You know, I come from down on the coast, and down on the coast, we had our Texas City. I don't know if you've ever seen what Texas City looks like. We had our Bonham. You know, Houston, we didn't have any zoning. Didn't really have any planning. It was helter-skelter development. That good? I don't think that's good. I think we've got an opportunity to go forward. We've got an opportunity to not necessarily control things, but we can direct it to a certain extent. And my question to the group is, what do we want Fannin County to look like? I want it to be a place where people have nice homes, nice farms, a place that we don't have dangerous development that endangers the public, that lowers property value. Those are the things, if we wake up and plan, we can at least, in many instances, avoid it. We're not going to avoid all of them. 10%, 20% is going to happen regardless of how well we do our jobs. And the important thing is you have people committed, people in political seats committed, and I'll say in official seats committed to doing what's best for Fannin County, putting Fannin County first. When I was a kid, I had I call it an opportunity. I like to be positive. I want to talk about problems. I want to talk about challenges. I want to talk about opportunity. I had an opportunity to live in Mexico. Went to school in Mexico. You know, I don't look like I speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. Have I got my Latin side? I do. And what is the Latin concept? Latin concept is something that is foreign to most Americans. A Latin will take care of family above all else. Will take care and do anything for friends and family, and will do anything to anybody else. That's not what Fannin County citizens are about. We are trying to be good neighbors, and I think that's something we strive for. You know, to be transparent about who I am. I consider myself a Christian. God only knows. I'll get his opinion at some time in the future. I consider myself to be conservative. What does that mean? Being conservative means this. Being conservative means thinking that there's nothing wrong with being a Christian and letting people know that you're a Christian. I had one Democrat chairperson ask me, Newt, why do you announce the fact that you're a Christian? I said, well, I never see his name. I said, well, it's a warning. It's a disclosure. I want to be transparent. And my core values, the platform I ran on 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, was transparency, honesty, and integrity. When I look at somebody, the first thing I look for is whether or not they're honest. And that's fairly rare. But there are people out there who are honest. Integrity, what does integrity mean? Integrity means simply that I treat everybody the same. that I've got a set of rules and they apply to everybody. I don't do the Latin thing and modify the rules. I don't make my nephew, head of Pemex when he's never had the oil field experience. I think we need to take care of our citizens first, and as a public official, that's what I'm into. I'm here to answer questions. No bad questions, but there can be bad answers. But I'm here to answer questions. Yes, sir.
This is not a question, but I'm going to say something more affirmative. There's two candidates running that I believe have interest in, let's say, watering down our subdivision rules and our RV rules. They were established to, first of all, keep the county, or the revision to keep the county from accepting the road responsibility for the roads in the subdivision, number one. Number two, to keep the density down, particularly in RV parks, because that puts a lot of burden on the system by having high-density RV parks without getting taxation to compensate for that. So there are people out there, I've seen signs in businesses that wouldn't let us put signs out a year and a half ago that are basically supporting one or both of these people that I think have a conflict of interest. So, you can extrapolate that out to, are these businesses supporting these candidates because they are expecting them to water down those rules? And that goes right back to what you started out with, good development. So I'm just putting that out. I'm seeing these kinds of things going on right now.
Well, let me talk a little bit about regulations. I don't like regulations, but we need regulations. There's got to be rules, and there's got to be rules that people are willing to live by. If you don't have enforcement, you can have the best constitution and the best set of laws in the world, and if they're not put in effect through enforcement, they don't exist. I could make the speed limit in all of Texas 35 miles an hour, and if I had one patrol officer, I don't think a lot of people would be complying with that particular law. And what is of concern, or should be concerned, is we get people who are more concerned about doing what some developer wants so they can get on their good list and have future opportunities. And when I see people coming in and want to put in RV parks, I have nothing against a real RV park. Something where people are going to go camp out or spend a couple of days. Now, what we don't have is that in most instances, we have things that aren't parks. They're basically parking lots that have a lot of RVs in them. And what does that bring in? Number one, it brings in itinerants. You got people who are traveling all over the places. They sell drugs or engage in prostitution or whatever, and they're continually moving. If you talk to law enforcement, they'll tell you that they have more problems with these RV parks than the rest of their community. And I guarantee you, if you put in a big RV park and you encourage people to come in, and we got RV parks all over the place, our crime rate's going to go up. And those people aren't necessarily paying taxes. They're not necessarily buying a lot of stuff. I'm not down on somebody who's down, but I am down on people who are part of this traveling, moving group that goes from community to community, engaging in criminal activity, and a lot of that is tied to these RV parks. It's sort of an invitation. So when it comes to RV parks, I'm not out to sell real estate. I'm not out to put in an RV park so my property goes from a value of $20,000 an acre to a value of $300,000 an acre. Unfortunately, that's what drives a lot of this. We've got people who want to take advantage, and they're more into making money than they are into preserving the community, of putting Fannin County first. They put their own interest first. Reminds me of Mexico. Guy gets in politics, makes a bunch of money, moves to Spain. But we don't need a lot of people out here making a bunch of money and moving to Dallas. This is where we need to be, and we need to make sure it's what we want it to be. I probably got off RV parks a little bit, but I think there's a lot of bad development because it generates money for the person who's doing the development. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ambulance service that you worked on negotiating that contract, and your future plans as far as what's important to prioritize for the public when the contract comes up for renewal?
Okay, well, I think first of all, I have people who will sign a contract without reading it. I have people who, I had one of my commissioners tell me, he said, Newt, I trust the salesman, there's no reason to read that contract. And I guarantee you there are problems with contracts that will bite you. I think it's important that we review documents. If you ask me what my priorities are, short list, I think public safety, public well-being, compliance with the law, good development, responsible development. Those are all things that people as public officers, as public servants in this community can foster, can develop, can put into effect. It's like reading contracts. I looked at a contract today, and the contract had an identification clause. Contract on something like page 12, and I'm reading these things, on page 12 it says, the county will hold the provider harmless from any claims by third parties and will pay the parties' attorney's fees. It will pay the vendor's service fees. And here we are paying a vendor tens of thousands of dollars, and we're selling an insurance policy that is worth more than what we're paying for under the contract for the services we're receiving. And I'm sitting there, and I remember I went to law school with Nathan Heck, not to date myself, but he was Supreme Court Justice, and he said, Newt, if you sign a contract, you made a law and you've got to live by it. Don't look to the Supreme Court for any relief. And as I sit here and as we're signing these agreements without understanding them and not having people who are making decisions that understand them, we're not putting Fannin County's interests first.
So how did that apply to the ambulance contract?
Okay, well, let's talk about the ambulance contract. And this is where you've got a bunch of kids at the table, and there's one piece of pizza, and you got to share it. We wanted to put an ambulance in Honey Grove. We went to the city of Bonham, who was providing our ambulance service. We had 3 ambulances. And they said, yeah, we'll put an ambulance in Honey Grove. It's going to cost you an extra $1 million a year.
How much were we paying already?
We were paying $800-something thousand a year. And I sit there and I look at that and I go, $1 million, we need to price this. I get, fine, we don't need to price it. We don't need it. We need to price it. We go out and we get 3 ambulances in addition to the ambulances that the city already has, and we pick them up for $750,000, $50,000 less than what we were paying for a portion of the Bonham ambulances, which we weren't getting a lot of service out of. And we got, now in the county, we have 6 ambulances. We got the ones that are serving the Bonham area, and we've got the ones that are out serving the other parts of the county. And so you run into conflicts. Here I am. Bonham makes up 1/3 of my citizens. I got Johnny at the table who wants all the pizza. I've got Susie and Jeannie at the table, and they want part of it. And when you're county judge, you're trying to do what's best for all the kids. And I think that's important. That gets down to integrity, treating everybody fairly and the same. And we do have ambulance service.
On that point,
Yes, ma'am.
on that point, I'd like to ask a question that I've asked you before in court about comments that have been made about county roads and the people that, or, you know, that if we live on a county road, we shouldn't expect the same services as people in the city. And I have the exact quotes if you'd like me to go over those. But how is that any different with the, I mean, you stated that if, can I check my notes real quick because I'm getting kind of scattered. But you stated that, you know, you want us to all have protective services, and under the Texas tax code, we don't get to choose as an ag person, if we are a producer, what our exemptions are. The state pretty much tells us that, but at the same time, if our house is on a county road, we pay the same taxes as somebody with the same amount of property in town does. And I see kind of your point where you replied once, where, you know, if it's a corporate, or not a corporate farm, but like a big farm and they're using the road more, they should be responsible for the taxes to repair that road. But it just made a lot of people in the ag community feel like you were kind of just basically disparaging us and saying that we don't get equal protection under the law.
I live on a county road.
I know you do.
Okay. I was accused of having a blacktop. Part of my property doesn't have blacktop, part does on the road. And that was put out 40 years ago. And this is, you know, Honey Grove. Does it go bad? Not Honey Grove, it's Allen's Chapel. Does the road bad at times? Yes. Now, what I meant to say, and I want to make sure it comes across, we need to have priorities as to which roads we take care of. Now, if I live out 11 miles up a rock road, and it costs $500,000 to keep my road up, and I'm just pulling those numbers out, and there's X number of dollars, we have limited funds about whose road should be taken care of. The county road that's got 100 people living on it, or my 11 miles so I can drive out and not have to get bigger tires on my vehicle. I chose to live 11 miles out down a gravel road. And I don't think it's fair to the rest of the taxpayers that a bunch of money is spent taking care of my road. Now, the thing that bothers me about roads, and I'm going to quote one of my neighbors, God love him, years ago I said, well, I won't say his name, I said, who are you going to vote for? What did he tell me about who he's going to vote for? You know what he told me about who he's going to vote for? Newt, whoever fixes my road, if they will commit to fix my road, I'll give them money to run on, and I'll vote for it.
Well, I think Ms. Jones makes sense, but sorry, if the county roads are not maintained, and I understand there are things going on with that now that you guys are working on, if they're not maintained, how are the ambulances going to get to those roads, to those people? Because, and help me understand this, because I don't. If under Texas law, that, or even the 14th Amendment, if we are supposed to equally protect everyone and everyone should receive the same public service, how does that reason with your opinions on who gets what?
Let's talk about what equal protection under the law means. Veteran gets stuff that we don't get.
They earned it.
Okay. Who determines who's earned it?
The law?
The law. So you can modify the law, and if you have a legal principle in effect, it's got to be applied across the board, unless there's a legal rationale for an exception. Now, on roads, we don't divide the road money up equally. It's not done that way. You how should we divide it up? Should we divide it up by the number of people living on a road? If you have a bunch of taxpayers living on a county road, and they're putting up a much larger share than me who lives out on 11 miles out of county road, is it not fair to give them more of that money? I guess what I...
There's more people living there, so that's 10 people, 100 people contributing more than I am.
Yes.
That's why the people in the city get the benefits of hard paved roads with curbs.
What city? What city? Because city, what city? Not all cities have.
Well, no.
And that's a question I have. Okay, so everything's going to the county and the precincts. Does any of that money help kick back to the smaller cities?
Sometimes. Let me take
Because
it.
we have some that we can't I'm fixing a petition in Nectar for my road to be renamed New Orleans because the ditches are higher than the road is. Literally. You can drive down my road and up here's the ditch. So, I've joked about it, so they say they don't have
Let me
that
tell
help.
you about the relationship between the counties and the city. Some cities have their roads taken care of by their county commissioners. County commissioner can do that. County commissioner can trade votes to do that. You vote for me, I'll take care of your road in the city. Somebody in another city, you may have the city government taking care of the roads. Now, whose roads are going to be better? That's a question of who your city government is. You know, I don't want to sit here and say Bonham has some bad streets, but Bonham has some bad streets. What we need is a plan. We need to think this thing out. We need to discuss it. We need to have transparency. It shouldn't be something that happens in the back room where you come into me and you say, Commissioner, you take care of my road, I'll get your campaign contribution and I'll vote for you. You don't want a city that comes in and says, you take care of our roads, I'll get our population to vote for you. I want fair transparency, fair treatment. If the county as a whole wants to come up with a way to apportion money and plan, I think we should do it and we should enforce it if we have those rules. Now, I don't want to, I'll sit here and I'll tell you that right now there's so many laws on the books that we're talking about a bunch of laws that I don't think anybody is in compliance. Our, Congress and our state representatives pass laws all the time and they change them constantly. Trying to keep up with the laws in one small area is incredibly difficult. And we've got laws, I would be willing to bet you, and I'll go on record, I think probably the county's about 30% out of compliance. And I'm talking about our government officials, because they don't know what the laws are.
How do we fix that?
Well, first of all, you tell the guys down in Austin, keep it simple, stupid. We don't need, when I started practicing law 100 years ago, maybe it was 800, we had about 4 shelves of books. And we didn't have regulations. Now, each department has regulations that will take up at least a shelf and a half. We've got multiple departments. We've got law books that would cover that law if we had law books. And no individual can understand the laws in their entirety. You end up with attorneys getting into niches. When I started, as county judge, I was completely ignorant of what the laws were. I had an idea of what they were, but it wasn't pure knowledge. And it was sort of, the experience was like, I went to the cockpit. Well, what is it? Well, 747. Well, where are we? We're 35,000 feet up in the air. Well, how do I fly this thing? Well, here's the manual. That's what we have, and we have this change, replacement, new people coming in that are entirely ignorant of what their jobs are supposed to be. Now, is that better than the alternative in having somebody in office for 50 years or 40 years? Probably. But there's a trade-off. There's always problems. But we need to figure out what laws are important to what we want for this county and see that those laws are enforced. We put in, I'll show you how crazy the law is. Landfills. A few years ago, there was an issue about maybe a landfill coming up in North Texas, looking around. I'm talking about municipal water district. We've done deals with them in the past. Looking around saying, where am I going to put my landfill? I sort of give wind to that. What do? Check the laws. What do the laws say? If you don't have a policy regarding landfills, they can put them anywhere. Okay? Now, where would you want a landfill if you were a company that was handling large amounts of trash? You'd want it at a major intersection. You'd want it at a major highway. Well, what did I do to try to tweak that and keep landfills from coming to Fannin County? I designated the areas where they went. And under the law, that was sufficient. And I put them 11 miles up a gravel road. So I call it the porcupine approach. If you're a porcupine and you've got a bad developer who wants to put something like a BES in the county, and Lamar County is a possum, what are you gonna eat? You're not gonna eat the porcupine, you're gonna eat the possum. But to design that sort of thing, you gotta plan, you gotta think it out, you gotta anticipate what's happening. And these developers, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm politically incorrect, I should say folks, those developers are smarter than we are. In their area, they do the same thing over and over and over again. We may have a landfill issue once every 4 years. The people who are in that business are doing it every day, every week. We've got the same thing going on with motor carriers. We've got the same thing going on with BESs. We've got the same thing going on with solar energy. We've got the same thing going on with neighborhood development. And here we are, we're babes in the woods. You know, what do? We plan, we talk, we have transparency. Worst thing you can have is somebody making a deal and nobody knowing what the deal is.
Judge Cunningham, to the point these ladies were making about roads in Fannin County, are you responsible for those roads, or who actually maintains those roads?
Well, the Commissioner's Court has responsibility for the roads, but the way we're set up now, our precincts are the ones who are in charge of the roads.
So the individual commissioners make
the
decisions.
individual commissioners. Let me get in the weeds there a little bit. We get to decide how the money is divided up between the commissioners. We could decide whether we want a commissioner or we want a road engineer in charge of our roads. We historically, it's a historical hangover, have had precincts, okay? And we have commissioners who have responsibility for the roads in their precincts. How's the money divided up? Right now, it's got to be a reasonable basis. And how's it divided up? It's divided up on the number of roads you have in your precinct. And when I first got in office, there were commissioners who wanted to add roads, because they'd get more money, but they couldn't take care of the roads they had. And I basically said, look, the HOAs need to take care of these roads. The neighborhoods need to take care of these roads. Got a lot of pushback because that meant there might be less money for somebody who's trying to grow their share.
Wouldn't
Now,
it make more sense, the miles of roads rather than the numbers of roads?
The miles of roads. And it's not, if I was going to do something, if you came to me and you said, Newt, you can have all 5 votes for a week, I would probably do it on the number of culverts on the roads and the number of inhabitants I had living on the road.
Have you proposed to relook the way Fannin County does its roads?
I am in favor of unitization. Now, what does unitization mean? That means that you have one person under the commissioner's court jurisdiction. The person would report to the commissioner's court who is in charge of roads. Now, could that be a commissioner? Could it be a road engineer? Yes. Road engineer understands roads, and I come from the transportation industry. In the transportation industry, you wanted your equipment to operate constantly.
Yeah.
Why have 6 vehicles when you could have 2 if they operated constantly? We used to do what was known as slip seating. What does slip seating mean? It means your tractor comes into the terminal and another driver gets in the tractor and takes it out. The driver could do 10 hours each driver, okay? So you got 20 hours of use out of that piece of equipment when you would have gotten much less, okay?
Have the commissioners supported you in reanalyzing how we go about doing business here?
Well, if we're going to go to unitization, I'm going to push to get it on the ballot. I want everybody to talk about it and understand what it means.
When
And
you
you
say on
can,
the ballot, is it on the ballot for the county or on the ballot for the commissioners?
it's going to be, I've tried to get the commissioners to talk about it. They weren't big on planning, some sort. They've changed their mind. Now that they've seen the cloud of unitization floating towards them, all of a sudden they're into planning. All of a sudden, they're into having an engineer come in and help them with future development. We weren't there before. We've got a lot of things that are happening that weren't happening before. For every action, there's a reaction, and just the threat of unitization has caused people to start thinking about planning.
So what does it mean when you want to, what is the process specifically?
Okay. Well, there's going to need to be a petition that's going to ask that it be placed on the ballot. The next ballot that it would go on would be November. You've got to get signatures within a 180-day period. If you have signatures that are older than 180 days, they're off the list. You've got to get 10% of the people who voted in the last major election. And what does that look like? I think we're looking 10%, would probably be 1,200. 1,200 signatures. That's not a lot of signatures to get the issue on the ballot.
And the issue going on the ballot would be, should we pursue a unitary system or remain with our commissioners?
It's for or against. So you get a choice. Which way do you want to go? And I think we need to put it on the ballot. We need to have discussion. We need to consider it and make individual choices, and whatever the consensus is of the people, that's the direction we need to go in. Yes, ma'am.
Is that what I read the leader today when I was at the doctor's office, and there was a thing in there about the best county road, or no, sorry, the worst county road, and there's a contest about it. Does that have something to do with the unitization system?
I think that has something to do with recognizing the fact that we need to do something about our roads.
Oh, we clearly know.
Well, that's
clearly. Yeah, clearly know that.
Well, I think we all know that.
Is the unitization the reason that, on the workshop, that 4 commissioners departed?
I think it probably. I don't want to get in. You know, what's the old biblical saying? Judge that. Yeah. So I don't know what their motivation is. If you were to say, Newt, and this is the attorney in me, I don't want to say something that's false, even though I've been accused of it fairly often. I don't know what their motivation is, but when we started talking about unitization, when that was coming up, that's caused them to leave. Now, yes, ma'am.
I am a spark driver. For those who do not know what a spark driver is, I do Walmart delivery.
Wouldn't have you were dealing over there.
How do we start, who do we start on this unitization? Because you can't vote for one crappy road in this county because my car is beat to death and I had a very nice vehicle before I started sparking over a year ago.
Well, it's
And
done.
it is beat to death because of our
Well,
county. So where do we go? How do we get started if that's a way that some of us look at?
Well, let me just say here, the contest isn't really tied to unitization, it's just to highlight.
Oh, I understand, but what I'm saying is you can't pick one, but how do we go about starting the petition? You're one of them. Yes, I'm not driving, I'm not asking. How do we
I've
start?
got a petition in process, a
Okay.
form that needs, I want the county clerk to approve it. I want, that's a lawyer in me, I want to share the blame. I want the county clerk to approve it. I want the election administrator to approve it. I want the party chairs to approve it. I want the state to approve it before we get it out there and start getting it signed. And so it is starting with the bad road contest. That's just to highlight the fact that we have bad roads. And I think you're right. We all know that already.
Yeah.
Most of us do. Some of the people in the city may not know that if they live in Bonham and they drive down 121 and never get on the back roads. Now, I had to, before I came in today, I took my car in to get it washed before I came over here because I didn't want people to look at my car and say, that guy's a slob. So I went through the car wash to get it washed. But we had, you know, dew on the car in the morning, and when I drove down the road, it ended up being covered with dust.
I'm sorry, could you repeat who all you're wanting to approve it? You said the county clerk and who else?
The election administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And if they, what I want them to do, I've looked at it, I think I've looked at the right law, I think I've developed it properly, but I want to make, if I'm wrong, I want somebody to call me out. I don't questions don't bother me, and I'd rather share the blame than the credit. And it'd be welcome to have everybody look at it, and let me call on her next. Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about roads, I actually live on County Road, where we had a bridge replaced in front of my property. It was a nightmare. There's so much corruption, there's no accountability. The contractor would come out, he'd work for 2 days, he'd leave. We're building a building, we could not get power to our building for 9 months. The sign is still there, it's still not signed off on. They destroyed our land. We had an agreement with the county through Dale, who was our precinct guy at the time. He came to my home on a Sunday morning, and cut down all my trees. We agreed on 7 trees, and he cut down probably 14, 15 trees. And when we tried to call him on the carpet, call the city attorney. This is what we need to stop. I want accountability. Where's the accountability? When I try to talk to people, I hear, well, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. And they destroyed my property.
It starts with transparency, and it starts with finding out who is responsible. Now, some of these projects haven't been under county control. I don't know about your project, but they've been under state control, and I have about as much control over the state of Texas and dealing with TxDOT as you guys do. There are 254 county judges, and our population is right at maybe 40,000, if I'm being generous, 38,000. We don't have a lot of stroke. It's like doing things through TCOM. That's the Texoma Council of Government. I'm a redheaded stepchild there. No offense to anybody who's redheaded, but I'm a redheaded stepchild because we don't have any of the population or any of the money, and even dealing with Grayson, they take advantage of us, and I'm going to say that they do what's best for them. We need to do what's best for us. We need to grab our future by the horns and improve what we have, and we need to know what we want. I think we need a consensus. I think we all agree we need better roads. Now, I think we all agree that we don't want things coming into the county that aren't producing anything for us. I look at, these messes and these solar farms coming in. We were giving them abatements. We gave one solar farm an 8-year abatement, meaning they don't have to pay taxes for 8 years. They didn't bring us any jobs. They made some landowner a bunch of money when they bought his land. I don't know, I wasn't in county government then. I don't know why they would do it. I can speculate, but we need transparency. I went through a deal with one of our commissioners. He said, well, we're getting the best deal we can get. There's a cap on county tax, and by getting a pilot, we're assured we're going to get an amount, and they're not going to be able to lower that amount. It's a contractual deal. And I'm sitting there and I go, look, I was in business. I'm not going to agree to pay you more money than I would end up paying you in taxes. Common sense. We were able to avoid that deal, but I was being pressed to do that deal. Why? Because this is a good deal. It's guaranteed money. Well, taxes are guaranteed money. There may be a cap, but new value comes out at 100% the first year, and the cap holds it at that value. And I'm just telling you, no large corporation is going to come in and say, I'm going to give you 3 times what you would get in taxes. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen 10%. They're going to be probably paying a third of what they would pay if they had to pay taxes. On the solar farm, they paid no taxes, so they came out 100% ahead. 8 years.
Judge Cunningham, who approved those arrangements? Who approved those deals?
That would have been, it wasn't Judge Moore's court, it was Judge Carter's court.
Okay, so when we say Judge Carter's court, it's the judge and the 4 commissioners.
Yes.
Correct.
Now, here's the thing. Yes, ma'am.
They're the ones that did the courthouse, right?
What's that?
They're the ones that did the courthouse, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing you need to understand. I am one vote on Commissioner's Court. I have certain duties that are come to me from the governor, like civil defense and emergency management. That comes from the governor. That didn't come from Commissioner's Court. I'm over the county court, constitutional court at law, which means I can do things in the courtroom, magistrations, etc., mediations, probate that have nothing to do with Commissioner's Court. So I wear multiple hats. But you start looking at it, we're supposed to discuss things and talk through things in the open. I come in again.
In the posted meetings.
Yeah, we're supposed to be in an open meeting and have a hearing, and it bothers me when there's already a consensus of how the vote's going to be. That bothers me.
So, Judge Cunningham, your relationship with the other commissioners, are they with you in terms of this planning effort, looking to?
I think they are now talking planning. The commissioner that's taking this most office over is A.J. Self, and he's not running again.
Can you repeat that?
A.J. Self, he's not running again. He had me taken off, or give you the idea of how an attorney operates. He had me taken off of the subdivision committee because I don't think he likes some of my attitude about enforcement.
But he is one of 4, correct?
He's one of 4.
So are
So,
y'all all equal on the commissioner's court? Is it equal
I
votes,
preside
equal
over
decision?
Commissioner's Court, but all of us vote.
What does that mean as you preside over it?
That means I get to say who's going to speak, and I get to put together the agenda and do the order of the agenda. But when it gets down to Commissioner's Court, is Commissioner's Court. But I'm presiding, and I try to maintain decorum. I haven't done a good job of that. I get hot at times because you don't see me being threatened before I get in there. You don't see everything that goes on. And I am, my grandmother would be offended at my attitude on occasion. But you twist my tail, I tend to bark. And I apologize for that.
Judge Cunningham, you said that the commissioners have removed you from the subdivision committee. What other actions have they taken against you?
Well, they're going to try to take me off of the zoning commissions. Fogelbaum has already told me that that's going to happen in January, February.
Why are they doing these things?
I think, I don't want to guess their motives. I can tell you what I think it is. I think they don't like the fact I like holding people to the rules. And I think that's a problem. Now, how did I handle the deal with being taken off the subdivision committee? I noticed it as a possible forum, so I was able to attend and speak. We got a subdivision committee that no attorney attends. And here we are, we're supposed to be interpreting the rules. Yes, ma'am.
So how do they take you off these committees? So
The
they put an
Commissioner's Court.
agenda on an item on the agenda, and then they all vote, and you're outvoted. Is that what happens?
Well,
Or-
one vote doesn't vote very hard.
So there's 5 votes, the 4 commissioners and yourself. You each get a vote, and the majority wins to vote you off. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the majority in this case, they replaced me with Doug Koff. And Doug voted for it because he wanted to be on the subdivision committee, and I think several of the others voted for it because they don't like my enforcement of the law. Yes, ma'am.
so I have gone back and read through everything because I'm a nerd. But in 2022, before or when you ran last time, because I try to research the candidates and everything, you said in public forum at a meeting, I heard some words of wisdom that sunk in the other night, and the words went something like this: "It is time to start discussing what we have consensus on." And I think that those words of wisdom, I think that those are words of wisdom, and I wanted to share them with you. Is there, like, all the stuff that has gone on, the walking out, the griping at each other in court, I'm a big parliamentary procedure person, so, when everything is out of decorum and off, it takes away from the actual business meeting of what's going on. is there a way that y'all can get together without it, or even if we have to do it in public, because I think if all y'all meet together, that you get in there and figure out the differences and move forward instead of it being like, it's me against the world or them against, you know.
Here's the thing. If the Commissioners Court voted tomorrow to kill all children under 4 years old, I would not go along with that.
No, sir, that's
There
not.
have been things in the past that were done that I considered criminal, and I would not go along with those.
Yes, sir.
Now, other things, it's like this morning, today, we had a conversation about whether we're putting a plaque up in the Justice Center. Okay? Most plaques say dedicated to the citizens by, and they list officials. They didn't want to list any officials. They don't want any names on the plaque. I went along with that. I think it's doesn't make sense, but they didn't want anybody's name on there. Now, I take it maybe they didn't want my name on there. But I don't care.
I think the question is there a way other than a commissioner's court meeting that you could meet with these individuals?
And the answer is, we can have executive session on limited things. Number one, if it's personnel, we can have an executive session. Number two, if it's dealing with contract negotiation, particular contract, or we're getting legal advice from an attorney, we can do it. Otherwise, the law is designed to have us discuss everything in the open. So and we're not supposed to have walking quorums. It's actually a misdemeanor. Get you jail for 6 months to have a walking quorum. Now, what's a walking quorum? I go over to one commissioner and I say, Doug, if you want something, I'll vote for it. I go over to AJ and I say, if you want something, I vote for it. That's a walking quorum. 3 of us have done that. That is a misdemeanor.
Right, but if that is an issue, as a judge in Texas, or because that's your job, do you not have the responsibility or the whatever legal issue that, or how to say it, to report that or to bring that to light? Because
I have spoken about in court repeatedly. I said, gentlemen, we don't need to have walking quorums. It looks like there's been some pre-meetings going on here. We don't need to do that, and I've said that in open court.
But what I'm saying is, like, I'm a retired teacher, and as a retired teacher, if there's something that I see going on, like legal, or if somebody's mistreating a child, whether it's the person that I've taught with for 20 years, if they're doing something that is illegal and wrong to a kid, I am obligated to report that.
Well, let's talk about reporting, okay?
I mean,
all right.
But then
slap on the wrist, don't do it, actually do something about it.
Well, let's talk through this.
Because you're talking misdemeanors and things like
I
that.
talked to you in secret. I talked to her in secret. We do the handshake.
I don't know.
Well, he's pretending we're commissioners.
Oh, okay.
Now, who is going to come forward and prove that there was actually a deal? What I get for them, oh, we didn't meet. Well, you're all voting the same way. Well, that's coincidence.
So,
Basically, the evidence would have to come from one of the 3 of us. Somebody else heard it.
what I'm going to ask her is how can we have exchange of information that can happen where we don't have that hostile engagement in the commissioner's court? And I think, and I'm going to throw this at you and talk about it. That was what was attempted at that road workshop.
Workshops
And
are a public hearing.
that there could have been a quorum, right?
Yeah, but we can announce that there's a possible quorum, but the public has to know it. Give you an example. If there were going to be 2 other commissioners here tonight, I would be obligated to ask one of them to leave or leave myself. I've had that happen where things were discussed that involved county business. And I left a Republican women's meeting where I had commissioners starting to talk among themselves through the person presenting, and that was against the law, so I left, so there were only 2 left in the room. So it is designed to have things discussed in public. Now, if you give notice ahead of time, we may be talking business, and the public knows that they can be there and listen to what you have to say. we can have workshops where all the commissioners are present and we can talk through everything. And these aren't commissioners' court meetings, they're workshops. So we can't do that. But I want you to understand there is a very specific law that prohibits that sort of activity. The sad thing, well, I won't say the sad thing, it's never really enforced because nobody can prove it if the people are not sharing the fact that somebody approached them to talk to them about doing something. And let me reach over here and I'll be with you in a second. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I know that Fannin County is a small county. I know our population is not like Anna, or not Anna, but Melissa is growing, or if you go into, Plano or Richardson or something like that. But surely these other cities do not have commissioners that are not educated in the affairs of running a city or the job responsibility that they are designated to do. So what does our county require in the education and the knowledge that they bring to the position that they hold? What do we require from them?
Whatever the voters, you've got to be 18, no criminal conviction. There's not a lot of requirements. Now, the way we vote, and this is a misconception on a lot of people's part, we think of our commissioners as being road commissioners. That's one small aspect of what they do. They set budgets, they approve contracts, they are involved in human resource hiring. And what we have, our skill set, it's not terribly impressive. I don't know how many. I don't want to sit here and say something about somebody, but I know AJ may have a college degree. I don't know about any of the others that having graduated. And the problem is, you've got them making business decisions and decisions that should be based on the law, and they're not necessarily, they haven't gotten rid of enough of their ignorance so they can make a good decision. I spend a lot of time trying to get rid of my ignorance. If I've got an issue that I need to address, it takes a couple of hours to get rid of my ignorance and be able to make a quasi-sound decision.
Now,
Judge
Cunningham.
I want to make a point, because it needs to be made. The things that we were talking about, like the landfill, the SOBs, the RV things, these were done with the previous court. The problem has really started a year ago, January the 1st, when Troy and Fogelberg took office. There was not, all this contention that's been going on this last year did not exist. When Magnus was in there, Dale was in there, Doug, AJ was pretty quiet for most
Well,
of the
AJ
time.
hadn't established a power block at that time, to put it mildly. I think we have not, I don't want to be negative, so I won't be negative. I think we've got a lot of room for improvement. And one of the things that going and getting a road engineer who knows roads to manage our roads under supervision of the commission, we pay our commissioners, and it's sad when in your county the highest paid people are your public officials. We've got commissioners who, when you look at their bennies, are making $100,000 a year. That's a lot of money. And the skill set that they bring, here's the thing that's interesting. If we had a road engineer who was taking care of roads, we could get people who were city councilman types who would work for much less, might even donate their time or get paid $20,000 a year, and would come in and bring their business expertise to the commissioner's court. It's like today, Major Goodwater, Colonel Goodwater, who was an engineer in the Army Corps of Engineers, he came in and he volunteered to do something and shared his information with us. We would have people like that that would be working and it not be the big job. Now, one of the things that bothers me about public officials, who gets to decide whether I'm doing my job or not?
The voters.
Once every 4 years. Now, what happens if 6 months into the job I'm not doing anything? I'm supposed to be taking care of the roads. And we've had this happen repeatedly. Somebody gets in there and they don't take care of the roads. We can't fire them. If we had a road engineer, you call him into commissioner's court and you say, Bubba, or it might be Bobette, you're not doing the roads. Get straight or we'll get rid of you. That assures us that we're going to have quality roads or gives us a tool to assure quality roads. What I have seen, a precinct that'll have one bad commissioner for 4 years, maybe 8. Then another bad commissioner for 4 years, another bad commissioner for 4 years, and after 20 years, 25 years, the road in that particular, those roads in that particular precinct are horrible. Now, is that fair to the people in that area? No. And can they fire those people? No, because they've got enough financial support and they've done enough favors that they're going to stay in office. Now, what does that look like? That looks like bad government. And, I remember years ago talking to the ambassador in Mexico, and I said, man, it's terrible how terrible this government is. And Ambassador McBride said to me, he said, Newt, he said, people get the type of government they deserve. And we deserve good government in this community. Now, how do we get there? Let's talk about our voting. I'm looking here, somebody's been involved in voting, Mr. Bennett. How many registered voters do we have in Fannin County?
A little over 24,000.
Okay, how many voted in the last election?
Around 2,000.
Really?
Yeah, maybe 2,500. Yeah. That was in the Constitution.
That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
I've got 2 things. I had one commissioner flat out tell me that he took the job for maintenance and he wasn't interested in doing the business side thing. I was talking to him about that. So that gives a little insight to how some of the commissioners are. The main question I had for you is you're talking about growth, and let's talk about water. What is your plan, or what are your thoughts about water in the next?
Okay, well, I had helped put together or revitalize the water agency. So you know a little bit about the water agency. About 25 years ago, there was an agency set up to bring all the water entities, and we're talking about the SUDs and the MUDs that are responsible for water together, to come up with a cooperative group. And the cooperative group would would sell water, buy water, and the group fell apart. There was no interest. And it's funny that we suffer from our own history. And this particular instance, my great-grandmother died in Bonham, in 1963 and 67, and nobody up here wanted to drink surface water. Everybody wanted to drink well water. You drank surface water, you get sick. You drank well water, it had been filtered to the ground. So what we had happen, we had the Metroplex come in who were drinking surface water and decide they wanted to control all our surface water. And they got in here, and our politicians weren't really awake. They didn't understand that these guys were coming here and taking advantage of it. So we ended up with a bunch of our water under control of Upper Trinity, a bunch of our water under control of North Texas Municipal Water District. My wife is on Bodart Mudd, and Bodart Mudd had a Dallas attorney who demanded water rights to be able to buy water. Okay, Ladonia got water. County didn't get water. A bunch of the MUDs didn't get water. The agency didn't get water because we were asleep at the wheel. We can't afford to be asleep at the wheel, and the history we're experiencing is the result of past mistakes. Now, do we have the ability to get water? We revived the water agency, and the reason we revived the water agency is they have a contract that allows them to get water from North Texas Municipal Water District. We almost let that agency go away. If we had let that agency go away, that contract would have gone away.
So at some point, North Texas Municipal Water is a possibility for Fannin County?
Yes, but we've got to put in the infrastructure, and we've got to guarantee them certain gallons. There are all sorts of conditions.
Groundwater will not sustain.
But right now, I think we're working on it. The water's probably going to come into Leonard, and their municipal group's going to use it. We've got some other MUDs down there that are going to use it. So that is going to occur, but you're talking about, I think they want us to have a minimum of 800,000 gallons a day, and a minimum of, it's going to be something like $2.5 million to put in the connection. And those groups are going to have to come up with that money. But we short-treated ourselves because we didn't understand the business game. And if you get guys who graduated from high school and they were getting ready to retire and they wanted a job, so they ran for office because they had large families, you don't end up in a good place when it comes to making deals with developers and water agencies and other agencies that we're dealing with.
I don't see how you can even begin planning until you get water worked out. I mean, I would think the first thing that you would have to put in would be assessments for any developer going in water. I do work in Fort Worth. I've got clients that have paid millions of dollars for water lines already in front of their property, but they're required to pay into the fund for future growth.
Well,
If you don't start assessing people today, there will be no growth. There is no growth.
Okay, you're talking about the MUDs and the SUDs that are involved in that. And, I'll give you an example. I think 5 Points is one of the developments that Lakewood put in. They had to come up with something like $2.5 million for lead water lines, and they had to cough it up front. If they require another well, we're still drilling wells. We haven't had to make the switch, which we're going to have to make to surface water. We're using what's known as groundwater. That's something that comes out of a well. We're going to have to make the switch at some point in time, and we need this agency up and running if we want to have a right to water from North Texas. So, it's, I think Doug Koff said it best. He said, if you turn on the tap and there's no water, you're 20 years too late.
And there are cities that are potentially months away from that, years away from that.
Yeah. So we need to wake up and get on top of it, and we need to plan, and we don't need to be trading votes. I don't need to vote for you to get a new tractor if you vote to let my, son-in-law haul equipment for the county. That's bad.
Is that not bribery? Quid pro quo. That is, you do this for me, I do that for you. That is against the law. That's
what happens unfortunately, that's what happens in Congress and in Austin every day, and we can try to stop it in our county. I can't handle what's going on in Austin. I can't handle what's going on in Washington, D.C., but I will pop off and I will sound off and I'll try to bring transparency online so everybody will have an idea of what's going on. Now, do I get bit for doing that? Yeah, do I get
Back to the water.
Yes, ma'am.
So we now have this best plan that we don't want. I feel like we have totally been let down by the commissioners. Everything that's been done has been done very behind closed doors. It's all illegal. They've not held up what the state laws are that these people have to follow. They caved with a lawsuit. And now the only reason that best plan's here is so they can now have a data center. Data centers use all the water. If Commissioner Court, can you get through Commissioner Court, like we talked about earlier,
me tell you why. Let me tell you about the story of counties. Counties can only do that which the legislature in Austin allows them to do. We can't zone across the board until we're over 50,000 in population. They've given us the right to zone around the lakes and a 5,000 foot parameters, around the lakes. They've given us the right to regulate sexually oriented businesses. They've given us the right to a certain degree regulate RV parks and mobile home parks, but those are rights that are given, and I'll say privileges, because we're an appendix of the state. The county is Texas, the state of Texas. It's not an independent entity like a city. And they limit what we can do. There are a lot of things I would like to see done that we have no power to do.
Well, what about regulating that you want a data center, you're gonna have to pay, I mean, I'm serious, making billions of dollars to get water, so they don't wanna come here.
Okay, well, the water is going to be, to come in and develop, they're gonna have to get a water agency to agree to provide them the required water. And the water agencies, they're delighted to do it if the money's put up. And if it takes another well and some bigger pipes, they're gonna have to put the money up to do that. So I think that's happening. But the thing is, bad development, it's like SOBs. I had a bunch of ladies come to me and say, you gotta stop them, don't let them come into the county. I told them, well, I can't stop the SOBs from coming in the county.
Sexually oriented business.
Yes, sexually oriented businesses. I said, what I guess it's,
I knew that.
well, it probably sounds worse as SOBs now I think of it. I said, look, I can't stop them from coming in the county, but I can use my porcupine defense. Okay? All your employees have to have background checks every year.
What kind of porcupine defense can we use for the data centers?
Okay.
Because
I haven't.
no abatements, they have to pay taxes.
No abatements is a big deal. There are counties who will give them an abatement immediately.
We did.
We can't, yeah,
We're
because
not, I am totally against abatements for anything that doesn't bring quality jobs to the county. That doesn't benefit the county. I'm not going to sit there and buy into the fact that some businessman is going to pay me more in college than I would collect in taxes. That shows a lack of common sense to even buy into that argument.
A lack of business sense. They just don't understand what the higher cost is saying.
And back to the water, could a data center, can they not just go out on their 250 acres and drill 4 wells and eliminate the mud, or is it something that the state regulates?
Well, the state regulates wells, and they get to give permits to people that drill wells, and the wells have to be within certain distance of each other, and the wells, there's got to be water in the aquifer. There are a bunch of facts, and there's a whole nother tier of government that is involved in handling that issue.
That doesn't sound encouraging.
It's not, it doesn't come under our auspice. And we have, in the county, we're not supplying water. This agency I'm talking about, while it's in the county, it's not part of the county, and we breathe life into it again, so we could have that contract right with North Texas.
And water was such a big issue, one of the constitutional amendments we just passed was providing funding for future water issues.
if you think that's for us, you're.
Well, we made that,
That's
we made
controlled
a
by
piece
us.
of the pie.
Here's the
No,
thing.
that is for the data centers that the president of the United States wants all over for the AI stuff. That is gonna bite us in the butt if we put yes to that.
But I'll give you an example. I was in Dallas this weekend. I had some grandkids in that I wanted to see. And I went by the new mental hospital that they're spending something like $16 billion on at the University of Southwest Medical School in Dallas. $16 billion. Big bucks. Beautiful, beautiful construction. Looks like a temple. And how many beds are in that? 250 beds.
Wow.
And you're spending $16 million. That program, putting in those things, wasn't being done to take care of people who are out on the streets. I could have gone around Dallas and picked up 300 people in 20 minutes who needed to be in an institution. It's for the people who are building and making money and lobbying. You know, they're trying to take the county's right to lobby away. So we can't go down there and talk to our representatives about what we would like to see. It's scary. The developers have control of Austin, for the most part. I don't want them to have control here. And I think, Mr. Cato, you've wanted to speak a couple of times.
I just want to make a few points here. First of all, when it was told that we have how many thousand voters in Fannin County?
24,000.
25,000. And 2,000 voted.
In a constitutional election, so it's not sexy, but yeah.
But here's the point. If we don't have educated voters and voters that turn out en masse, then people like the judge are left hanging high and dry. Let me give you a homework assignment here. Go to the Fannin County website and look up abatement and read what that document says. The first thing it says in there, it says that it can't be harmful to people, it can't be harmful to the land, the cattle, the ranches, it can't overwhelm the fire department. Guess what I have in my backyard? It takes, and if something goes wrong, by the way, all that stuff on there is made in China. That is on law in the Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act that says no China equipment belongs in our grid. We have tried to make reaches out there. We've talked to Shelley Luther. And she's done the best she can. We've had the judge reach out. He's tried to get into Paxton's office, and we can't get an arm of enforcement to enforce the laws that are currently on the books. If we, the people, don't take and come to these meetings and start and invite our friends, we will lose this state. I left Illinois for the crap that was there, and I will fight to keep this thing going here because we still have a chance. But we, the people, have to take and make a stand. Put it all on one person or put it on 4 commissioners is not enough. We, the people. And you might, and so when I talk to people, I go, come to commissioners court, come to my city council, come. And they go, well, I don't know what to do there. Just your eyes and ears and your presence makes an impact.
Yeah, well, and that's the point. The reason I'm here is to make sure that we have somebody like Newt to stand in the gap for us. Now, the other thing is, in 2 years, we'll be looking at some more primaries coming up and get rid of the commissioners that we don't want. We have to get out, become knowledgeable, and get out and vote.
Yes. So here's the other thing too, I'm very concerned about. I've already started reaching out to a lady that's already in Phoenix. She's dealing with data centers out there. They are taking and using hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a day. So let's say that we don't have my city, we don't have any mother stud out there that can supply them. So they dig their own well, and they dig a deep one to make sure that they have plenty of supply. What does that do to the shallow wells? What does that do to Ravenna? What does it do to Acton? What does it do to Savoy? Now we're out of water. Now what do? You see where I'm going? We have to be proactive in this. One of the things that the judge is making a point of is that, as I've been researching all this stuff, is that the unincorporated areas, if it's just out, if it's in the ETJ or if it's just outside the ETJ, it's the Wild West. And so if we don't take a stand as we the people, we will lose this. To put it all on one person and say he's got to do all this stuff, what he needs and what anybody needs in elected officials is people showing up and saying enough is enough. We are the people. That's what the Constitution says. We need a turnout for voting that's more than 2,000 people, regardless of the election.
Right.
I'm not trying to be mean to you. I want us to win. And it's not about one person in particular, it's about us. And if we don't support this, we lose. We lose.
It's even.
Who's running?
Yes.
Get the best person in there.
Make sure they share our values.
It's even, Mayor, it's even worse than it sounds, because that number is for the whole county. You get into individual precincts and you've got somebody who's got 200 people in this extended family, they end up winning the election. And that's, that's one of the reasons I think we need unitization. That won't change the election, the dynamic, but it'll change the way our roads are managed.
We are growing, we're growing like crazy. And if we don't have proper people oversee the different divisions of growth, we're in trouble. If we don't have control over our unincorporated areas, we're really in trouble. Yes?
I have a question. I agree with you, 100%. But how do you do that? Because we've had the good old boy system here for so many years, and quite honestly, they don't want to turn loose of it. They don't want to turn loose of it.
That's why more people have to show up and keep pushing back. I'm not from here. I've only lived here a little over a year and a half. I moved out of Washington State. Do you understand the right you have that you can physically show up and vote? I have not been able to physically show up to a precinct and vote in 25 years. Do you know what they do when you can't vote in person? They cheat. And Texas, I'm sorry, Texans, but Texas is not fall if the people do not stand up. People think we're so safe here because we have guns and it's Texas. You guys, it's scaring the crap out of me. I'm like, why did I move here? I don't feel any safer here than I did in Washington State because of the corruption here. I have never seen such corruption in my life. But people here have been talked down to. There's such a spirit of depression and poverty here that needs to be broken. The churches need to stand up. We need to start praying over this county and this state. We need to stand up and take it back because the Muslims are here already. And what do you think is happening in the end days when people get their heads cut off? Who's doing that? It's the Muslims. We are in a spiritual battle, and these good old boys are taking us down into the pit of hell with everything they're doing. But America is made that we the people. So we need to now start. We need to have town hall meetings. We need to have groups. We need to get people invited to places. We need to tell people that they have power in their voice. And if we take it back, we can save Texas. Yes. Do you realize if we save Texas, we save America?
Are you willing to put your money where your mouth is?
Yes.
And support the candidate, the best candidate in each campaign?
I have always done that. I'm
I'm
telling you, I have always voted. I voted every single election that they've had here.
And we've brought forward,
I have
not
something else.
down doors, we've brought the people.
So
Campaigning is
here's,
not an easy thing to do.
No.
No, but people need to, I'll tell you this, when I lived, because I'm new here, I had no idea where I needed to go to vote. There's no voter's pamphlet here. I have no idea who these people are. And so I have to start asking questions, and luckily I know people here that I trust, and I'm like, okay, what about this person? What's going on? Can you tell me something? So we need to get the information out. We need to get people back in power. And yeah, I'll come to a town meeting. I'll help you put on a town meeting. I'll go door to door.
Are you registered to vote?
Yes, sir, I'm a registered voter.
I can tell you there are people in this county that are scared to speak out. I've had numerous people tell me that they've got kinfolk that they don't agree with, they won't rock the boat. I had a young man call me about the best facility. Said his mother's lived in Savoy for over 60 years, he moved out. She's scared to death, but she's scared to go to church and talk about it because every time she brings it up, people tell her that she's a fear-monger and conspiracy theorist. I had a 22-year-old boy call me and tell me that.
That's where unity that we were talking about. So you step up and you talk, and we'll have this meeting, and we can have it again in 2 weeks if you'd like. But the question is going to be, yes, we know that we're going to go, to the ballot box, and I'm gonna put my vote in. I'm gonna vote for righteousness. I'm gonna vote for truth. I'm gonna vote for what will promote goodness and values and integrity and morals and standards and all those things.
Bring 5 people with you.
But who can you tell? Who can you touch? Who can you, if you don't. Back 100 years ago, as a young man in Baptist church, you have the sweet prayer group that you always talk about. And we call them the nanas, all right? They couldn't go door to door and speak to everyone. They might not be able to make it to church. But what they could do is pick up that phone. What they could do is hit their knees in prayer. What they could do is Sister Mary will tell Sister Susie. So we're invaded now. We've got this new thing called the internet. And we've got this new thing called social media. And we've got all these tools at our disposal.
People are scared.
It's time to break out of the
Can I say something? Okay, years ago, we had a company, electric company, that wanted to come through Fannin County. I don't know where they were. They were going from, it was from Hugo to where, do you remember, Judge? Anyhow, it was Brazos County Electric, and they were coming in with eminent domain. And they were going through Prize, the road that they wanted to travel with their power lines was going through Prize ranches and lots of land. I know it went through telephone, and it just went on. I don't exactly know what power plant it was going to, but going on that way, south towards the Metroplex. And it was going to ruin. When you put those things on your property, it ruins your property value. And then they leak. And so if you've got cattle or any livestock like that, it can cause deformities in it. I don't know that it does something to the groundwater. I'm not sure, but they're not good. And then they have permission to come on your property anytime they want to so you don't really own your property anymore. I mean,
can I add on to that? I'm talking to folks in Oklahoma. And what I'm finding out, because when they come with these contracts to do these things, they make the person that they have the contract with sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. And so they're not able to really give up, give the information out in the open because of that NDA, because otherwise they get sued. There was a person that had a 1,200-acre ranch out in Oklahoma. He gave 16 acres for wind fans. But he didn't, like the judge said, he didn't read the contract all the way through. They remortgaged his whole 1,200 acres to fund those. And he lost his whole ranch, 1,200 acres, because of this whole thing. We've got to start getting these stories out to people so that they don't lose their family investment. And that and these companies are doing this. They're taking land away from people, whether it be through eminent domain or having them have a contract and go, hey, let me show you this. We can give you $2,000 a month, and they take advantage of us. And that's the sad part.
Let me finish. So the community was in an uproar, because we had that thing, what are we going to do about it? We don't have, what are our rights? How can we stop this? And so we had people that went to Austin and petitioned in Austin. We had lots of people, forums like this where we get together and people would rally to try to, so it got the community, we really had a lot of people that get involved because that was, it was taking properties that people had maybe had in their family for generations, and anyhow, so long story short, that hurt. There's a way to rally this community and let them know where Fannin County is falling short and how we're not going to grow properly.
Right.
you know, if people don't get their heads wrapped around just, you know, their daily living and going back and forth to the grocery store and keeping a job, people have to get involved with the community, you know, and I don't think, there's too many people that don't realize what is happening.
Yes.
And that it affects them, and that it's gonna affect them even more. They just are ignorant in it, and I don't know how we get it out to them.
Well, one thing is the leader allows any citizen to write a letter to the editor for free every other month.
So I'm just
Up to
saying.
so many words, and then after that you have to pay for blocks of words. But anybody in here can write a letter to the editor.
But you're talking about a group of people, you're talking about our generation and older, like my parents' generation, that read the leader. I can almost guarantee you that anyone below 40 does not read the leader.
But they can talk to people. We're talking about trading information by word of mouth.
But
Well, I understand that but there's other ways to do it. Sometimes the media is a little slanted in what they report.
well, some people think that, I mean, I'm not being horsey about it, but some people think that on both sides. So
what do we do? Nothing?
no, sir, I'm not. No, you're mistaking what I'm trying to say. Well, okay. So I taught for over 20 years and worked in school in Fannin County for 30 years. So like, if you go and look at the different groups, like I can relate to Judge Cunningham because he's don't get mad, my elder, okay? I know how to communicate with them because he's my dad's age probably. And then like the next generation down would be.
Ancient age.
No, but like.
It might be because you have respect.
Well, I mean, that's neither here nor there.
You know,
But
people can't communicate with them because they don't have
right,
respect.
but at the same time, I've got students that are going to be, or former students that are going to be in their 40s this year. So I've kind of seen the generations up until last year, and so everybody communicates differently now. And if you are only focusing on one group, especially with the kids who are Gen Z now, the 18 to 20 something year old, we have to get that group involved, and then you have to move up. Like that group deals primarily with TikTok and social media and things like that. Do you have a TikTok account?
Actually, I don't.
Well, okay, I'm not picking at you, but I'm just saying.
Well, I'm saying any of us to get the word out there. I'm not, we probably put 20 or 30 letters of the editor in there, and usually we mirror them right on the e-news.
But you're only hitting.
We're
Yeah.
doing what we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do what you can do. I understand we need to do something.
Okay, we have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Been there a long time, you know this town and everything. If commissioners only do business with their friends and they're unfair to other businesses, how do you break that middle voice?
Then you call. If you have it,
My husband has been in a court every Tuesday since July.
right
Because we just want fair treatment, and they don't like that.
here.
You've been here a while.
Okay.
Tell me.
I don't really know the answer to that because I'm not a business person. But okay, I know people, too many people sometimes. But like whenever Mr. Green goes and speaks before Commissioner's Court, just based on what little parliamentary knowledge I have, is instead of doing it during public forum, do it during the discussion items. Come speak whenever it's open discussion. And that way you can interact with those commissioners, and that if they have an issue and you have an issue, you have what they say on public record. But no, okay. Well, hold on. At the end,
You can speak on, and they can speak back at you.
The discussion, I asked to be put on the discussion items.
So you don't have to do.
I've got some open, continuing discussion items, or you can discuss on topics like roads, you can discuss on topics like emergency management. I carry them. I had, I almost, if it wasn't for Doug's vote and some pushback, I had Commissioner Fogelberg wanted to remove those items so we couldn't have discussion unless it was on the agenda. But the things that come up that need to be discussed. So that's why we've got, if you look at the end, I think 15 through whatever, it goes towards the end, it's before executive session. There are about 5 items there that are open for discussion, and there are probably 25 items if you look at the subparts. And I did that because I don't want to have a hot issue that needs to be discussed that we have to wait. We've also gone to bi-monthly meetings, which is insufficient. Bi-weekly, bi-monthly, they're both the correct descriptor. So if you hear bi-monthly, it's the same as bi-weekly. And, so we're there on that. But I want to was pressing for night meetings. They didn't want to have night meetings. It's like they like non-transparency. And I'm into transparency. If I'm doing something wrong, I want to be called out. And, that's part of getting on track.
They took away the county attorney. How do you hold public meetings with no county attorney?
What happened to the county attorney?
Do what?
He was moved. The county attorney was under me, and he was moved to Scott. So Scott Nick has been doing. The DA has been primarily doing criminal matters now, which doesn't leave a lot of time for civil matters. Particularly, I'll give you an example today. I had a contract that had 2 web pages that I had to go to with hundreds of pages of contract that were referenced in a contract with a link to a website. And for me to read that all takes a huge amount of time, and it's just blinding and binding, and makes it difficult for me to do my job. But I'm a workaholic, and if I've got to put in the extra hours, I'm going to put in the extra hours. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability.
So did they take your attorney away to make the job harder on you?
Let me tell you where we were on that. He had helped me, and my maintenance man had helped me put evidence together about the condition of the courthouse. They decided there's nothing wrong with the courthouse. They took my attorney out from under me, and they took my maintenance man out from under me. They quit when he was taken out from under me because they put him under the very guy he had collected evidence on. So that's, I don't know why they did it. I'm not going to say they did it to cover something up, though that thought bounces through my head on occasion. I want to be positive. I'm going to put the courthouse issue behind me, and I'm going to look towards the future. I can't do anything about all the people that died during World War II, but I can try to prevent bad things from happening in the future. And I will say one other thing. When I deal with people in Austin, they talk about us being Fannin County residents. And I tell them we are citizens of Fannin County. For them, they want us to be citizens of Texas, and Fannin County is an address. Where do you live? I live on 1955 County Road 2980. They want Fannin County to just be an address where I live. I want more for our community than that. I want to be a citizen of Fannin County, not a resident of Fannin County. I think most of us want that. I like to think I share some common beliefs with everyone, and if I don't, I'd like to know where I'm off. So,
Well, thank you for coming and speaking to us.
well, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you all.
Real quick, what's the gag order up on that litigation?
I told our attorney I think it's up, and he's going to get back with me and confirm that it's up. It was 90 days from the signature of the settlement, so I think we're past that now.
What was the actual date of the settlement?
I don't have that in my mind right now. I have spent probably part of today dealing with trying to put together a petition to use to look at having unitization. And that, I crack books and I do detailed searches and did some drafting, and I can do drafting pretty easily. It's proofreading it to make sure that I don't have any misspelled words that's difficult.
Just have to run, I'm sorry, but I want to thank you for what you do, the way you fight. I'll spread the word that the best thing we can do is
There's signs over there.
I'll take a side, candidly, thank you for what you do.
And we've got metal sign holders in that box back there.
Okay, great, thank you, I'll definitely put one out.
I've got plenty of, so take as many as you like.